couple of months ago, I kicked off a Planet Coaster 2 project to develop a set of classic Main Street blueprints. I ended up with a collection of 20 different assets, but what started as a wild idea to build a few ultra-detailed shops and facilities, well, it's turned into something much bigger. I dropped all the blueprints into a fresh park build for a video just to show how they all work together, and that's when it hit me. This could be the start of an incredible theme park. I put it to the community, and many suggested they'd like to see this expanded into a whole park. So here we are, I'm committed now. With the Main Street stuff, we've already laid the foundations for what might just become the ultimate theme park. In this new series, we're expanding out from Main Street, filling this entire map with fully themed zones to create what I believe could be an awesome park. Concept for the park is to continue on as I've started here. It's to be a classic family-friendly destination, taking heavy influence from the gold standard Disney model of thoughtfully designed zones, immersive theming, and creativity to evoke the imagination. While I'm not an expert, I am committed to applying principles like good sightlines, thematic immersion, and visual wayfinding. Also, while I wouldn't consider myself one of the top tier builders in Planet Coaster, I know my way around the pieces, I obsess over the details, and I've got a decent creative instinct, which is good for coming up with and visualising concepts. Exactly what a park like this needs to do it justice. Let's build something amazing. So, back by popular demand, today I'm going to be working on the Main Street map and making this into an actual park. Well, the beginnings of one. First change, can't keep calling this Main Street because it's much more than that now. So, come up with a name for this. Dream Kingdom. Not exactly original, I know, but I struggle with naming things and I thought this fit quite well because it's a play on the Disney thing, and dream because I say with Planet Coaster, if you can dream it, you can build it. Anyway, so plan is to expand out from Main Street. This will be split into theme zones, and these will spread out across the map. Plenty of room for expansion, so not worried about space. Now, in terms of what's going to go into each zone, I will be dedicating some to the in-game themes, but right in front of Main Street here, I've got a under construction sign set up because this is going to have to be some kind of castle. Problem is, we don't have any pieces that match that style right now, and if I was to create this from scratch, that would mean a lot of custom roofing, which I'm not great at. This custom dome on the sushi place, this is about the best I can do. And yeah, that's not going to cut it if we're making an entire castle with dome roofs and stuff. So plan is, I'm taking a bit of a risk and preempting that at some point we will get either new pieces to do with fairy tale, fantasy, something like that, or like with the Western pieces, at some point the Planet Coaster 1 fantasy pieces are added back into the game, which will make this much simpler to do. What I can do now, and is important to do, is to plan out the space. So using the terrain tool here, we'll get this shaped out. Want it centered with the center of Main Street so that you've got good wayfinding there. The sight lines will look perfect for this. This will be castle at the front, and then there's going to be attractions and stuff at the back, so a road probably through the middle, and this will spread out to create a central focal point. We'll get some flat rides in this space. Castle itself won't take up all of this space. It's going to be smaller so that you've got room for gardens around the outskirts. And what's important here, making sure it aligns exactly with the centre of the Main Street Road, this being the first key visual wayfinder for the park. Feels a tad off centre there, but we'll fix this when we're building it. Next, we'll have some big pathways leading you to the other zones, so that'll be 3 directions you can take once you're out of Main Street. That's the extent of my planning so far, so going to do a jump cut and I'll be back when I've got something ready to go for the first zone. Small change for Main Street, I've binned the tree in the middle here. It was getting in the way of the sightlines for what will be the castle. So that's gone and replaced with plants. That gives us a much better, unobstructed view across the whole of Main Street now. Put down a main side path here to the left, and this is where our first theme zone will go, which is going to be a Western theme because I've got blueprints I can use for that. So just taking care at the front, we want this to be a slow reveal of that theme. You don't want to be able to see that from Main Street, so going to use trees and things to cover that up. Entrance will sit around here, and for this I'm using my Western Main Street blueprint, so kind of a mini Western Main Street to introduce you to the Western section. to place this down, and I need to build up the area leading into this so that it all fits with the main park theme. Time for a jump cut. Put down some temperate rocks, and if I check the sight lines for this, that's perfect. Once the castle's in and stuff, definitely won't be clashing with seeing too much of the western zone before you get to the true reveal for it. Yeah, I'd say this is the right point to start seeing the western buildings and the entrance here. Just needs a bit of polish now to make this complete. Right, now fixed up the pathway, and I've also added more detail to the side wall of this restaurant. This was not customer facing, shall we put it, to fix that, and I'll do the same with this building on the other side when we get to building that side of the road. Key thing with theme parks, you don't want areas that guests can see that are unthemed, basically. Similar technique for the back of the buildings, don't want guests to see that, so use trees. And then I've raised the terrain down the path so that guests can't see how vast and empty that is behind it. And that's all helping with the slow reveal of our first zone, the western side of the park. Good visual wayfinds right through the entrance, the Hangman's Gallows there. Next asset to go in here, going to put in the western train station, so this will link up with the transport train ride at the start of the park. This is going to create a great backdrop for the western section, so just boxes off the main street stuff that I've got in there. And yeah, from the entrance of the western section, it gives a great view there, doesn't it? Now, only problem with this, because it's a blueprint, that's a whole new train line and won't link up at the start, so gotta delete this. And that means this station is now essentially a station shell, which somehow, so go back to the starting train station, gonna have to edit the track here, bring it around back to the new station we put in, add a station to the track line, and fingers crossed it lines up. Well, much fiddling with the track editing tool, so much fiddling to get this to work. I finally got the track lines up properly. Ended up I had to reverse engineer this, so starting point was the track itself, so I had to delete the station shell, get the track to line up, then put a new station in, put the new shell in, and then the whole of the Western Main Street didn't line up, so that got deleted and put back in again as well. Hours of fiddling, but got there in the end. Does mean that the sight line into this section of the park has changed slightly, so it's not quite as visually appealing as it was before. Hey ho, I'll live with it. Next task is to get some attractions in here. Gonna start with the Western Mine Train coaster I've already created, and quite a big asset this one, hopefully it fits in. It's going to run over the transport train line there, but we'll worry about that later. Now let's take a look what this is doing to the sight line at the start. Yeah, see, that's no good. You can see too much of the ride there from Main Street, and what we're trying to do is to avoid revealing too much of a theme before you get to that area. So let's try that again and try putting it on the right hand side. This is much better. Sightline from where the castle will be and Main Street pretty much obscured there. That's what we wanted. So placing this down, and then can move straight on to the next attraction. This is my Western themed go-kart ride. And ooh, yeah, it's a lot bigger than even the coaster there. This is definitely going to run over the transport rail line. Not to worry, can figure that out, so can move the train line or whatever, and it should fit in okay. Do love this blueprint. This is one of my, shall we say, creative ideas that I come up with occasionally. It's a go-kart track, but it's with wagons. Anyway, yes, gonna need to do some fiddling now to get the track working with that, and gonna need to do something with the pathing as well, and just filling in little bits and pieces around this section now to get it all themed up properly. Slight problem, been working on theming for a couple of hours now and didn't notice a fatal error has occurred. Whilst I've been busy tweaking the pathing and putting in more scenery and things, something's happened to the transport train line. It's gone. Not sure when this got deleted. Good job I spotted it when I did, to be honest. Tried the undo button to get it back, but no joy with that. It didn't go far back enough. My last manual save was hours ago, and autosave, this is still gone, so Yeah, we're missing the entire train line. I don't have the luxury of reverse engineering this one like I did before because too much been done since then and can't go back to the last save because it was only after I'd just placed the first blueprint for the western section, so that's not an option. So back to plan A, you need to put this train line back in and get it to line up with the station shell as best I can. Right, train line back in. I'm hoping that the entrance and exit here work for the station. Really don't want to have to do this pathing again. Took this as an opportunity though to change the direction of the train, so you're coming around to this station first, and managed to get this so it's going over the go-kart ride and fitting quite well here, I think. Couple of custom supports, but for the most part the auto supports work well. No weird interference with the track. I couldn't have lined this up better myself. From here, the track has to make its way back down to ground level so we can get into the dreaded station. In terms of aligning with the station shell back here, done the best I could with this. It's not perfect, but believe me, the amount of fiddling to even get it to line up this close, this is the best I can do. Lesson learned, I need to learn to save much more often. Anyway, I've continued on with some general theming. So these blueprints I use, they don't have backsides to them, so that sounds silly. What I mean is they don't have decoration on the back of the buildings, so sorted those out. Also things like the vegetation and rocks to do with the western style, got those in. And oh, so back of this building, I haven't filled this in because I think this is an ideal location for something like a shooting range. Try and squeeze in some midway games for each of the zones we do. All that's sorted, time to add another attraction. Now I do have a Western Water Park blueprint that would fit in well here, but I'm still a little reluctant to use water park stuff currently because there's still some bugs with the game and water parks, and I can't bear it when you've got guests wandering the entirety of your park in swimwear. It just bugs me so much to see it visually. So I'm skipping the water park and instead using the Western flat ride I created. This is a Western Oil Works, and that's a ride skin for the parallelogram flat ride. Another rather big asset, hence why it's going in the back here. Good thing it lines up very nicely with the train station platform, although a bit of wobbly terrain there, have to sort that out. But yeah, whilst this is big and tall, because I've got it situated at the back, I don't think it detracts too much from the train station. And we'll do a quick check on the sight lines from the main street again, just make sure this isn't peeking over the trees. Let's see. Ever so slightly can see the top of the oil drill, but it's not that noticeable. That means we've successfully added all of the attractions for the Western Zone and maintained the sight lines for the castle and Main Street. And there we go, we've got the nice slow reveal of the Western Zone as I intended. That's all the attractions that are going in this area. Do need to put in a pedestrian bridge here over the train line, otherwise guests won't be able to access this new ride. So a few odds and ends to finish off, then we'll take a tour of the completed section. First of all, slight remodel on the park entrance. New coat of paint matching a new branding style. Dream Kingdom has its own identity now. This logo design here. Now, I got this from, first time I've used this for this purpose, ChatGTP. So I've used AI to develop a brand for the park, and I think it was spot on with what it suggested for this. But the different colours here, that did mean I needed to redo the entrance because it was clashing a lot with the predominantly dark green I had here. Anyway, we'll speed walk through the main street because we've already seen all of this. If you want a detailed tour of this area, there is a video dedicated to Main Street. So, starting with what I've added today, we've got the side path here that leads us around through to the first zone for the park. King Coaster being loud as usual. Don't know why I put them in my parks. I think they're far too loud, the characters. Anyway, welcome to Coldwater Creek, the Western Zone for Dream Kingdom. As you walk through the gate, you're presented with a mini Main Street, and this is where I've got some Western themed shops and facilities. Sightlines through the zone, looking good. And if we take a right, that brings you to the first attraction, Wild Canyon Railroad. Managed to squeeze in a shooting range behind the bar. And while this isn't functional, I like the idea of adding a midway game to each of the zones. The pistols are slightly oversized, that's the smallest they go to. I'm imagining that it shoots beanbags or something at the targets. But yeah, good little space filler that. Wild Canyon Railroad, this is the mine train coaster, and it's a family-friendly ride, allegedly. My thoughts for the park is, this is not a thrill seekers park, it's very much a family-friendly park, so I want to be placing rides and coasters that are suitable for all ages. Let's see, how's the view from the top? Not bad. Can see a bit of Main Street peeking through, but they'll be looking at that from the opposite direction, so maybe they can't see that on the ride. Anyway, we'll let them enjoy that. Let's move on, make our way under the ride and take a look at the other side of Main Street. Bridge over the railway line. Managed to just about squeeze this in with using ramps rather than having to go to stairs. Just trying to bring a bit of realism and avoid using stairs where I can if I can squeeze in the ramps. But yeah, a lucky coincidence avoids infringing on the train station too much. This side of Main Street, sightlines still look good. Might have to revisit that once we get more zones in there. Oh, and this side of the train station, managed to squeeze in my ranch scenery as well. Just adding to the ambience. That takes us up to the Wacky Wagons racetrack, and I've added some additional scenery at the back of the buildings here, just so it fits in. Now, Wacky Wagons, yeah, okay, it is a bit silly. Not exactly realistic either, but I had the idea for it and kind of just run with it. Do wish the wagons would scale down slightly more than they are now, but this is the smallest that they go to, so we're stuck with that. But yeah, silly concept, but that's where my brain takes me sometimes. I just come up with these stupid ideas and run with it. Oh, a bit of a slow coach there. Get it? Slow coach? Oh, swans, don't start with the dad jokes. Anyhow, jokes aside, I am so happy that they fixed the go-karting game. I love working with the go-karts, and the fact that people are now queuing for the ride, that means the scenery is included in the ride prestige, and this is probably quite a high prestige ride. Right, where are we up to? Oh yes, so let's go and have a look at the flat ride. The one I can't pronounce, parallelogram. Terrible at saying that. So yeah, bridge over to the flat ride. Did measure this and the train won't clip with the bridge, but I might have to move that beam. I think it's going to clip with the beam, so I'm going to have to rethink that when we get the train running. Main thing is, it works. The bridge itself looks okay, and this brings you through to the industrial oil works section of the Western Zone. Nice to see a big queue for this ride too. Now, space behind the flat ride. Got another construction zone set up here because something will be coming here for this area. I'm expanding it out, but it's not necessarily going to be completely Western themed. We're transitioning into a new area, and that'll involve a mixture of the Western theme and another theme that's been hinted at is coming back to the game in May, sci-fi. I've got the beginnings of a fun idea for this, and I think it'll be a good way to do a transition between two different themes, as long as it plays out the way I'm seeing it in my head right now. But I'll have to wait for the sci-fi scenery to drop to see if it works. So watch the space on that. Space, get it? Anyway, I'd say for the most part that's the western section of the park completed. Up next, now I would love to be working on the castle, but without the right pieces I can't do it justice at the moment. I honestly can't see them not adding a fantasy theme back into the game. Even a vintage theme would work for this. So I'll hold off for as long as I can, but if we're getting to the point where the park's nearly complete and we don't have anything that fits, I'll commit to doing this myself. I'll make something custom. To that end, next episode, I'll expand the park out in this direction with a new theme. And for that, I'm thinking mythology, because I don't have a lot of pre-built stuff in the mythology theme, so it'll be mostly new stuff that people haven't seen before on the channel. Until then, as always, a big thank you to everyone that's watching these videos. I'm excited to see where we end up with this new series. Feels like this park's becoming a passion project for me, so I am committed and will be seeing this through to the end. But of course, it would be lovely if I've got some viewers following along with the journey too. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you next episode.